You are listening to Personal Development Mastery Podcast, where you will find inspirational conversations and actionable takeaways to master yourself and improve your life. I am your host, 𝗁𝗁𝗄𝗄, and my mission is to inspire you to grow, stand out, and take action towards a purposeful and fulfilling life. I interview successful entrepreneurs, authors, thought leaders, spiritual teachers, people who share their journey, aha moments, milestones, and failures for you to be inspired to grow. In each episode, Monday and Thursday, you will find actionable takeaways that you can implement right now, even if you only have limited time. Today's episode is about the recipe to a longer, happier, and healthier life. Let's dive right in. In today's show, I am delighted to speak with Tim James. Tim, you've had a long journey of multiple serious health issues, which led you, as you say, to a shocking discovery, which helped you transform every area of your life. You are the founder of Chemical-Free Body, and you're passionate about helping others by sharing this incredible knowledge. Tim, welcome to the show. I'm excited to speak with you, and I'm looking forward to find out more.
Thank you, Augie. Thank you for having me on the show, and I want to thank the listeners for showing up, and I'm going to do my best to make a difference in their life.
That's great, and it is the topic of health is, I think, one of the most important topics in everyone's life. So we'll get to that. Before we go there, Tim, I wanted to ask a little bit of background. I gave a very, very brief introduction. I think it was more like an appetizer, but do you want to take us back to maybe where you were before that discovery so we can get a better context of what happened next and where are you now?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I grew up in Eastern Oregon on a small cattle and hay farm. So I grew up pretty much redneck. And like one my best friend, like right over there, you know, he was into rodeo. So for me, it was like, do I do rodeo or do I do baseball? And I ended up doing baseball. I ended up playing baseball at a high level for 30 years and had a lot of fun with that. And, you know, I grew up on the standard American diet. You know, I was hunting and fishing, shooting deer and elk and chuckers and pheasants and all that kind of stuff and keeping the freezers full of meat. And then, you know, fast forward, age 37, I'd found myself 42 pounds overweight. I had developed a huge patch of eczema on my left knee that was cracking and bleeding and sticking to my pants. I was a financial advisor at the time. And then the eczema started on both of my elbows, and then those would crack and bleed. And all those patches of eczema got worse and bigger and worse and bigger and thicker every year. And I tried all kinds of creams the doctors gave me and steroids and creams and all these things. And, you know, it was a lot of work rubbing that stuff on, and nothing seemed to really help. And then I developed another skin issue on my back shoulder. It was like fat bubbling up out from my skin. It was weird. And my wife's dad was a medical doctor down in Lima, Peru. And so when we were down there, he hooked me up with his plastic surgeon. He injected some stuff in there. And, you know, after a while, it ate it away. I think it was some type of cortisone or something. But it kind of left an indent. It was kind of purpley colored. So it was discolored. And then I was like, well, at least it's gone, you know. And then a few months later, bloop, 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 3 more little ones started growing around it. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what if this happens on my face? You know, so it's just like, because it's on my back shoulder, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. But when I took my shirt off at the beach or something, I wasn't embarrassed that I was overweight because pretty much 80% of people are. I mean, a lot of people are overweight today, so it's kind of the going deal. But I didn't want to take my shirt off because my elbows were bleeding and my knee and that fat stuff on my back shoulder. So my universe was shrinking. I wasn't expanding anymore, and I was a very A-type, outgoing person, but I just felt like I was, you know, just not expanding anymore because of my health. It was pretty bad. I kind of lost energy. I stopped going to the gym. The only exercise I was getting was walking my dogs because I knew they couldn't walk themselves, and I had that obligation and responsibility for that. And then it got worse. Then I started bleeding rectally when I would poop. So I don't know, for those that can't see me, that's why my shirt says love when you poop, because for me, it was a very painful process followed by blood, and it went on for 2.5 years. And I just kind of had my head in the sand in denial. Um, I was hoping that it would just go away, and it just wasn't seeming to happen. So finally, on a vacation that I planned with my wife down in northern Peru, and her dad joined us. It was his first vacation away from the hospital in 30 years. So he'd never had a day off in 30 years. Here we are on a vacation just south of Ecuador, and we're on a trip out in the ocean doing deep sea fishing, and I'm doubled over in pain. And they think that I'm getting kind of sick, and they think it's motion sickness. And I'm like, no, I fish all the time. I'm like, I don't get motion sickness. Well, they took me back, and he diagnosed me. He said, wow, we have to get you to a hospital. We need to get you into surgery immediately. So we zipped down to the airport, but we missed the one plane flight out of that place by about 20, 30 minutes. So he's like, we can't wait. You could die. So they rented a van and drove me down this bumpy road on the coastline of Peru down to a town called 𝗵𝗄𝗄. And I went into the hospital there, and it was like it's a third world deal. I mean, it's like there was bugs flying around in the examination light above my head, and the stuff on the thing looked like it was out of the 1950s. And I'm like, this ain't good. I've paid health insurance my whole life, and now I can't even use the darn thing. So he didn't want them to operate there. He wanted to have his surgeon, so he had them dope me up, put me on a commercial airplane, but you're not supposed to do this, and then flow me into Lima. And I took a taxi cab right onto a gurney and up into the OR, and I spent the rest of my vacation, recovering. And thank God those doctors were there to save my life. This is where Western medicine shines for crisis care, but for, taking care of chronic disease, it's a complete fail, pretty much. And so what I learned from that experience, Agi, was that, number one, I don't ever want to get surgery again. I really wanted to take care of myself. I was always into health, but I just didn't know what. I mean, I tried high fat, high protein, high carb, low carb, 5 meals a day. I was always trying different stuff, trying to get healthy. I even tried juicing at one time, but I didn't lose any weight because I didn't know I was juicing too much sugar, like carrots and beets and, oranges and apples and kind of stuff like that. And I really wanted to get healthy. So the second thing that I learned that was really important was that my poor health doesn't affect just me. It affects everybody else around me, because I ruined the vacation for my wife and her dad because I had poor health. And looking back now at my body, if I look at my body like a system, it's really simple. If you don't have what you want as far as your health, you just have to change the environment and the inputs to the system. But I didn't know what that was. I didn't have that map yet. So fast forward, a buddy of mine got cancer. And he died on my baseball team and left 3 little boys behind. And that was a really tragic thing. And I lost my grandma to brain cancer. I lost my aunt to lung and melanoma skin cancer. So my experience with cancer was, if you get it, you're pretty much toast, right? You're just done. I watched it in front of my face. And then after that, then my friend Charles got diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia, which is supposedly an incurable blood cancer. And he came to me and said, look, Tim, I want to live. I want to see my son graduate high school. I want to go to father-son weekend. I'm not ready to go out. And Charles was an entrepreneur, so he's thinking outside the box. If Western medicine ain't going to help me, I'm going to go figure it out myself. So he found an institute in Florida called the Hippocrates Health Institute. And they've been around at the time 61 years. And they were the oldest alternative health institute in the world. And they really teach people about detoxing and nutrition, how the body works. They give you the map. And they kind of assist you. Now, when he told me this and he said, hey, will you go with me to support me? I'm like, dude, anything you need, I'm there. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, how could this little podunk place help him with cancer when they're spending billions of dollars, race for the cure? We have our best minds on it, right? Well, I was in for a rude awakening, but a happy one, right? So I went there, and on the plane flight, Charles finally broke the news to me. He's like, oh, when we get there, by the way, there's no meat. There's no dairy, there's no salt, there's no sugar, there's nothing cooked, there's no vinegar. And I'm thinking, no meat? What are you talking about, dude? Like, my whole life revolves around it, like literally. So I'm literally freaked out, completely freaked out, thinking, like, what am I going to do? And I'm like, well, I had salad bar once a week in high school, but they had hamburger on it, but I guess I'll make it. So I just said, forget about your worries, Tim. Support your friend. He's got cancer. You're probably going to lose him anyway. So just be there for your buddy. So if it wasn't for him, there's no way this stubborn, ego-driven redneck would have ever set foot in that place. But I did it for somebody else. It was a bigger cause than me. Day one I get there, my acid reflux is gone. I went through a detox. I had night sweats. I was irritable. I had a metallic taste coming out of my tongue. I didn't have it as bad as some people. Some people had rashes breaking out on their bodies or all over their body as things were exiting the body and things were changing. So what happened was the first class was called Internal Awareness, and this doctor comes out, and he's very, very healthy. I thought he was 40 years old. He was like 50, and he was buff. I mean, he had muscles like... Found out later he was a professional bodybuilder, and so was his wife. And he'd been eating a plant-based diet for 10 years. Now, for those of you listening, I don't want you to shut down and think that I'm trying to promote plant-based eating. I'm trying to promote fresh foods, and the more plants you eat, the healthier you're going to get. I mean, that's just the way it is. So there are certain circumstances and stuff like that we can get into, the nuances. But for the most part, and I've coached over 600 people through this process now and thousands online and worldwide, and if you even look at the blue zones, the people that live the longest, they have at least 80% of their food is plant-based. So we just want to have a high plant-based diet, and fresh is best, and herbs and sprouts are up there at the top. So I was blown away because this guy hadn't had meat in 10 years, and he's got all these muscles. So he shattered the whole myth that you have to have meat to have muscles. And, that movie, that documentary that came out, Game Changers, that really shatters a lot of people's ideas when the strongest people on the planet today are eating all plants. So I'll just leave it at that. But he was talking about, he showed us from the time you eat food until the time it exits the body, like what happens. And that was really revealing. And I was, wow, this is cool. And the big takeaway was that the average person, Augie, is carrying around 6 to 12 pounds of disease-causing, immune-dropping, energy-robbing, like fecal material. It's all impacted in there. 6 to 12 pounds of this funk and gunk and junk. And he's like, you got to get this out. And he looked at me and he said, Tim, if you ever want to be healthy, truly healthy, you got to clean that stuff out of you. And that's why you're here. This is the first thing we're going to show you how to do. And they started teaching us about enemas. And so you could do it yourself. And then colonics. Have you heard of colonics, Augie, or colon hydrotherapy?
Yes, I have, and I would like to know more about it. Now it's starting to get very interesting now, because this is a topic that there is, I've heard different things. One that is it's good for you, the other that it's dangerous for you. So I'm very much looking forward to, yeah.
Sure. So for those listening, I didn't know what a colonic or colon hydrotherapy was either. This was all new to me. And basically what it is you set on a tube rectally and water goes in and out of your colon gently for an hour, and it cleans your colon out and it gets rid of all that garbage that's accumulated. So there was no way I was going to do this. I elbowed Charles and said, hey, look, dude, I came here to help you, but I'm not going to do that deal. That just sounds weird. But the doctor was very smart. He played 4 videos of virtual colonoscopies going inside of people. 3 were unhealthy people that had issues, and 1 was a healthy person that had healed themselves on the 𝗵𝗂𝗺cie protocol and been on the lifestyle for a few years. The first person was a 24-year-old female, and she had Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid disorder, and thrush, which is a yeast infection. Inside of her colon was white and yellow and just weird looking. Right? She had all that yeast actually growing in her colon. She had yeast infections, vaginal yeast infections. She was having issues with it. And then the next guy was like a 65-year-old male that had colon cancer and parasites. And inside of his colon, it was like black tar with little white worms crawling around. And I'm just like, oh my God. I mean, and the doctor turned around and he said, now look, most of you think that this parasite thing is a third world affair. Far from it. He goes, easily over 50% of you have parasites in you. And I'm not talking about these tapeworms and hookworms and pinworms that you can see through these virtual colonoscopy videos. We're talking about microscopic parasites that live in your body, and all of them are drinking your drinks, they're eating your food, and they're urinating and defecating in you and having lots of eggs, and they're creating a lot of acid in the body. And they also hold on to heavy metals and use them as a shield to protect you from your own immune system. And heavy metals isn't good. And I was like, whoa. So, and he said, you'll see as you experience the lifestyle here, a lot of you are going to see these parasites exiting in many places. So some people would see the tapeworms coming out in the stool. Some people would see these fuzzy ones. The stool would look like white fuzz. People would have parasites crawling out their arm. I saw a lady at lunch had a parasite crawling out of her eye. Now, as hard as that is to believe, I saw it with my own 2 freaking eyes. And what happened was, and why was that happening? Because we were changing the internal terrain. I was living on a very stressed out, high acid, low oxygen lifestyle and diet. The foods that I were eating, cooked, processed, fried foods, all that kind of stuff, donuts, cake, pop, candy, ice cream, all this stuff by the boatload. And what they put us on is they cleaned out the colon, they changed the internal terrain, and they put us on alkalized water with lemon and lime juice in it, wheatgrass shots, green juices, sprouts, sprouted nuts, sprouted seeds, sprouted grains, sprouted beans. Everything was like, it's like living foods. 50% of the foods there were like alive when you eat them, just like a wild creature does. This is why these wild animals have so much freaking energy, because they're actually taking in biophotons that are captured in the leaf of the plant by the sun, and it transfers into energy on an electron level in our body. All I can tell you was, man, is all of a sudden I started doing this stuff, and my energy went through the roof. So what happened was we were changing the internal terrain, and we made it inhospitable for viruses, bacteria, mold, yeast, fungus, parasites, and these mutagens, cancers. They hate it. Cancer cannot live in an oxygenated environment. It's anaerobic. So we were changing the terrain, and it's just like I always say, if you dropped a polar bear and a penguin in Miami Beach, Florida, where it's hot, they're going to take off. They're not going to like it there. It's too hot. They're going to get in the water and swim south or swim north. They're going to go to an environment that's more conducive for what they do. And that's what happens with these harmful organisms. So when we live in a stressful life and we eat highly acid foods, not once or twice, birthdays, parties, weekends, shoot me, no big deal. But when it's day in, day out, we know how much dairy we're having, how much meat consumption we're having, cooked, pastas, these kind of things that are, messed up, kind of, not so much in Europe, but especially over in the United States, they're really messed up. These things, bakery goods, things that cause acid, orange juice, these kind of things, then it creates the environment for them to breed disease. It's simple. So the next day I do the colon hydrotherapy deal. They weigh me. They weigh me again after the hour, and I dropped 10 pounds of impacted fecal material in 1 hour. A couple days later, I come out of my detox fog, and I felt like I was reborn. I felt like I was 18 again. I had energy. Literally, my arms were like tingling with energy. Tingling. My brain was clear. My mind was back. And me and Charles were walking back to our little hacienda after our little morning routine. I said, Charles, do you feel as good as I do? And he's like, yeah, man. I said, I feel freaking amazing. I said, I feel like a little kid again. I'm like, dude, we have discovered the fountain of youth. This is like not some woo-woo thing. This is what everybody is looking for. And it's real. And all it is working on your stress, getting the man-made toxic chemicals out of your body, flooding your body with real living nutrition, and you just come back to life. And it's like the fountain of youth. Like it really is. You're just plugging back into nature. You're getting the man-made crap out and getting nature in. And people forget, Augie, that we are nature. What's your body made of? Water. Where do you find that? Nature. If you have bacteria in your gut, those same bacteria in the soil. It's nature. And when you die, if somebody cremated you, what's left? Minerals. Where do you get those? Soil. Nature. So the disconnect from nature, thinking that we're away from that, and we're rubber-soled shoes, and we drive cars with rubber tires, and we're disconnected from Mother Earth, and we live in a house, and we close the house in, and we seal it, and we've got carpets off-gassing and glues off-gassing, and it's just, these houses have become...
Sorry to interrupt you, but I want to clarify something with what you said, because I think it's important. So my question to you, because you said that both you and your friend and some of the videos that you saw were from people that had chronic diseases or self-immune diseases or cancer or things like that. Is this treatment only for people who experience these symptoms? I mean, my question, to be more direct, is if someone is healthy and doesn't feel any issues whatsoever, would they consider this kind of treatment at all? Would they see benefit as well?
Well, if you have a brand new car, after 3,000 to 5,000 miles, are you going to change the oil? You're going to maintenance it. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. We live in a polluted world. I just did a group coaching session last night with my group, and we talked about the connection of glyphosate, which is the main ingredient in Roundup, and heavy metals and EMFs. Glyphosate was actually originally created to go clean the inside of metal tanks because it's a chelator and a binder to metals. And when you spray it on a plant, it gets into the soil and it binds to the minerals in the soil and pulls minerals out of the soil, and it kills the bacteria. We take it, and now over here we've got lawsuits up billions are being paid out because it's causing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and multiple myeloma, a couple different cancers that they've been able to prove so far. Who knows what else it's doing? But the problem is we have like heavy metal poisoning. Glyphosate's bringing it in. A lot of people on the gluten-free movement got gluten-free and they feel better, but now their symptoms are coming back because there's glyphosate has very similar symptoms. So now they're looking for glyphosate-free stuff too. So my point is that when you have billions of pounds of this is just one herbicide, just one chemical, and there's hundreds of thousands of them being dumped in the world. One of them, 74% of the rainwater has it in it. So think about that. In this huge planet that we live on, 3/4 of the rain has glyphosate in it, a man-made toxin. It's crazy, right? So yeah, if somebody's healthy, it's smart to do this kind of stuff. And the other thing is even though you feel healthy, I coach Olympic level athletes. I coach world champion. I have MMA fighters, all kinds of people. I take them up 2, 3, 4, 5 more levels of health than they even thought was possible because they've just got garbage accumulated in their toxin, in their blood, their fat, and their muscle tissue, and they got to get that crap out. It's a microscopic weight on them. And when we remove that weight, they get free. And that's what happened to us. And you brought up a point. I forgot to say that the last person that had issues on that virtual colonoscopy was a 45-year-old woman with breast cancer. And inside of her colon was all brown and nasty and weird. And then they went to the healthy person. Now, inside there was brown stuff because it's a waste removal system. But the lining of the colon was pink and clean, and you could see the blood vessels. My point is that the entire terrain was completely different. And it looked better than the people that were sick. And for me, that's when the light bulb went off. And it wasn't just theory anymore. I could visually see health on the inside versus somebody that was health on the outside. And then I looked at my skin and I realized that my gut was jacked up. And if I was going to get healthy, I needed to start learning about my gut. I needed to start learning about my organ systems and those intestinal villi that are, creating that peristaltic action and moving my food through me and pulling the nutrients in through the intestinal lining into them. And I got studied on that and I got educated on that and I learned how to take care of the inside. And by healing my inside, my skin healed and everything else. So we came back to Portland, Oregon, and within 60 days, I dropped the 42 pounds. Both the skin issues in my elbows were gone. The skin issue in my back, gone. I could see my ribs again. My abs were out. It was like do-over. I was like 18 again. And then instead of wearing extra larges and larges, I was wearing smalls and mediums. And about 8 months later, that huge patch of eczema on my knee was gone. No acid. I haven't had acid reflux since. So it worked. And the best part of the story is that Charles came back, and within 2.5 years, he was cancer-free. No chemo, no radiation, no surgery. And in fact, 2012, in October, him and I ran the Portland Marathon before he was technically cancer-free. A lot of the people thought he should be resting at home, but he was like feeling so good, we ran a marathon. So yeah, the proof's in the pudding. I've seen first person, my buddy healed himself. His story and my story kind of took off. And from that, I had over 5,500 people to my home, teaching them detox, nutrition, living food classes, juicing classes. And, before too long, my garage turned into a sprout growing operation. I was delivering wheatgrass, sunflower, and pea sprouts to 40, 50 cancer patients a week because Charles's story was circulating around the Portland, Vancouver metro area. And I didn't even have to book people. They just started showing up in droves to my house. That's how bad it is today, unfortunately. And I've been on a mission ever since, man, to get this information out so people can take back their health, become their own doctor, learn how to self-heal, and, just take the reins back in all aspects of your life. And for me, when I did that, I actually opened up my spiritual path. I raised my consciousness, and now I'm on a whole nother journey that's wonderful and amazing. And I just want everybody to feel good, man. Everybody has that birthright.
I just wanted to take a short break from this episode and tell you about something you may find valuable. Do you ever find yourself trying to focus, but you can't get your brain to concentrate on the work you have in front of you? I know I do, and so do 40% of people who say that they have to make a significant effort to concentrate. So if that sounds like you, I have a solution, a fantastic app called Brain FM. Brain FM uses functional music backed by scientific research designed to help you go into a focused state. So when I need to concentrate, I will put my earphones in, play Brain FM and give my undivided attention to the task that I need to do. Right now, as my podcast listener, you can try the app for free and get a 20% discount if you decide to join. Go to brain.fm/Aggie and start your free trial today. Alright, let's jump back to the episode. It's truly fascinating and it's very inspiring to hear what you said about the self-healing, or you used the phrase fountain of youth or reborn, which is it is amazing. And you mentioned a few principles or elements, shall we say, about the food, and I think it's a very big topic to go into detail. So there is one other thing that I wanted to ask you that we haven't discussed. What's the role of water? Because I'm sure that water also is polluted or contaminated. What is your approach to water? What's the best thing?
Well, one of the first things we teach people is looking at your body as a system. What are some of the main inputs to that system? Well, the first one, the most important one, if we're going to look at nutrients, is oxygen. Because without air and oxygen, you're dead in 4 to 7 minutes, right? So that's a pretty important one, right? Without water, you can live 11 days. Without sleep, about 11 days. Without food, a couple months. So we walk people right down that path. The first thing we look at is we get their air right. We have them start cracking their windows at night in these polluted homes. We have them get air purification systems. We have that on our site. I've handpicked the one. I went through a ton of them. I love the one we have. The next thing we do is we work on getting their water right. I mean, think about it. Your body's mostly made of water, and we know all the water today is polluted. And I hear, I have a friend, he's like, oh, I've got this spring from, that was made in 1802, and, they tapped into it, and it's the best water ever. Yeah, well, it's probably a lot better than the city tap water by far, but it's still polluted. And I'll give you a story. There was this guy, I heard this story, and he moved to the side of the Colorado Rocky Mountains just to get away from everything and de-stress and get into nature and heal himself. And he was doing fine up there, but then his health started going down, down, down. And the doctors couldn't figure it out. He went to doctor after doctor after doctor. And finally one doctor goes, well, maybe it's in the water you're drinking. He's like, nah, I've got a spring coming out of the Colorado Rocky Mountains. My God, it's the best water ever. And he's like, well, have you tested? He's like, well, no. He was so desperate, he tested the water, and it was completely polluted with heavy metals and stuff. And he was so fascinated. He's like, how's this possible? What he found out is that there's underground aquifers. There's rivers that are running for hundreds and hundreds of miles underground. And, back in the Midwest, they're fracking for natural gas, basically exploding underneath the ground, causing earthquakes and all kinds of stuff. But then they're loosening up all these heavy metals, and they were getting in the aquifers, and they were bubbling up into his spring, and he was drinking them. He's poisoning himself. Who would have thought about that, right? The other thing is that the water researchers have went all over the most pristine lakes, creeks, rivers, tributaries, bogs. All the water they've tested today is polluted. Even like lakes that are 1,500 miles in the interior, no people around. The 2 and 2.5 inch fish in those lakes now have both male and female organs. They're turning into hermaphrodites. Why? Because of the high amounts of estrogen mimicking microplastics that are in the water today. So everybody listening to this podcast this isn't like, should I do this? Well, I could do that. It's like, this is a must. If you want to have a high vibe life and you want to it's going to be, it's going to be like pouring gold down your throat every day when you get your water right. That's how good it is. It's just amazing. So you got to get your water, and what you want to do is you don't want to just filter it, because filtering it is like putting a sock in a river and thinking you're cleaning the river. No, you want to purify it. And I triple purify my water, because if you use like reverse osmosis or distillation or deionization purification methods, you're only going to pull out about 90% of the contaminants, which is way better than not doing it. But then you run it through again, you pull out 90% of the 10% that's left, and you got 1%, and you run it through again, you got 0.1. Now you got 99.9% purified water. But if you live on city tap water, what's going on with that water? It's in super high pressure pipes. So what happens is that the water molecules that are normally in a 4 to 5 cluster are now in a 20 to 25 cluster. Well, what does that mean? You drink it, but it's not going to really go through the intestinal lining that well. You're just going to pee a lot of it out. It's not going to really get into the blood, into the system, into the lymphatic system, which is your garbage removal system, by the way. And it runs on air, water, and movement. Water, the key component. I mean, just not having enough water in your system lowers your IQ, and it could be the difference between finding your keys or car keys or looking around for them for 15 minutes and trying to find them. So it's a big deal. And so we have to purify our water today. But we also, if you're on city tap water, this again is not a should, this is a must. You have to get your water restructured. If you do those two things, if you have purified, restructured water, game over. Game changer. That alone, you change that water and you'll change your life. And the cool thing is you're probably going to drink water today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, and your family's going to be wanting to drink it and use it for stuff. Why not take the time and get your water right? This is usually one of the biggest investments that people have to make into their health financially, because you got to buy these systems and stuff to put it all together. But on the cheap, what somebody can do in the meantime, if they're on a budget, you can just get gallon glass jars, no plastic. Let me repeat, no plastic, because we don't want to put plastics in there. And I know somebody's going, but I've got BPA free. BPA is a xenotoxin. There's BPA, BPB, BPC, BPD, BPE. Go look it up. These xenotoxins, just because they won the front on BPA, they went right into the next ones that are just as worse or just as same or worse. So plastic is out. Gallon glass jars, go to your local grocery store, and for about 25 to 44, 50 cents a gallon, you can get single purified water. Pack your water and start there, and then save up for your system. But that's my take on it. It's really important. It's changed my life. When I got my 2 water systems together, dude, I'm like high on water all day long. In fact, I'm actually doing a water fast right now. I'm on day 3 of a 5-day water fast. I haven't had food in 2 days. This will be my 3rd day. And I feel amazing. I feel really good. So, and I even went trail running yesterday. So anyway, water is an important topic, and we got to get that right.
When you say restructured that you said earlier, what do you mean?
Well, like I said, when the water's in these big clusters, it needs to be restructured down to smaller clusters so it can go through the intestinal lining and get into the blood and the cardiovascular system and the lymphatic system. That's what I mean. So it's got to be restructured down to smaller particles, basically, so it can move through the body like it's supposed to.
So is it a device that you recommend that does that purification and restructuring?
Yeah, there's actually the gal that I got it from, her name's 𝗫𝗫, which is Polish for Donna, and I used to give out her email, but when we get all these support emails, nobody knows how to spell 𝗫𝗫. So we built a landing site for her. If you want to get your water right and get your water restructured, she'll go deep, do a free consult with you. It's what was it? It's mypurifiedwater.com. mypurifiedwater.com. You can book a free consult with 𝗫𝗫. But yeah, so, and she sold me the device. But the device she sold me, not only does it restructure it, but you can play with the alkalinization of it too, and you can also charges it with molecular hydrogen, which is like a big deal. And it gets a little heady getting into that, and I'm not like a super expert on it. All I know is I drink the frickin' water and I feel like a superhero. So I'm going to keep doing it. That's basically what I do. I just look for results, man. If it works for me, then I share it with others.
Sure, and that's great. And I know Tim, this is such a big topic, many topics at the same time. So it's as much as I would love to go into detail, I know that we have to, some things just go a bit faster. There is also one other thing. You mentioned that you're doing a water fast now. You're on day 3. Do you also recommend intermittent fasting or time restricted eating, or do you advocate this kind of longer fasts?
Yeah, the first time I heard about fasting was at the Institute. The wheatgrass manager, he was on a 10-day water fast. And when he told me that, I couldn't even comprehend it. Like, not eating food for 10 days. I mean, it was scary. And you know what? One of the reasons why it was so scary, because I'm a food addict. Right now, I'm just a recovering food addict, right? Food is the biggest dope out there, and people run to it and what I learned was after coaching all these people, and what I learned at Hippocrates is changing your food and your diet and stuff like that. This is easy. This is the easy part. What's tough is that when you do that, emotions come up from a lot of it from childhood. And it's crazy. Through my coaching practice, over 50% of the people that I coached were actually molested. And I've had a broad spectrum of people I've coached all over the world. I was just flabbergasted. I can't believe how much harm was done to people as a child. So people are carrying around this baggage knowingly or unknowingly, whether they've suppressed it or not. And it's always trying to come up and heal. But us guys, we're supposed to be tough, so we shove it back down. And a lot of times we use food as the dope to push it back down. Push it. Like a girl, the old adage, her boyfriend breaks up with her, cheats on her, whatever. And what she do? She goes eats a pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream, right? Because she's pacifying herself with the food. So food is a dope. So when you go to Hippocrates, they take away the dope, which is the food, and they put you on these living foods, and up comes the emotions. And this is why they'll have guys from like cowboys from Calgary, Canada that come there because, we're talking guys that live like out on the range, herding cattle, barbed wire, campfire next to a barbed wire fence, eating a chunk of meat and a potato and drinking coffee their whole life, right? Well, they get cancer too. And when Western medicine fails them, some of them end up at a Hippocrates type health institute. And about 3-4 days into the program, they'll be getting a massage or something, and they start crying uncontrollably, and they can't stop for an hour to 2 hours. And what's happening? What's happening is because the dope's out of the way, the food and stuff, and they're in a loving environment, now that's where the true healing begins. And when they're crying, they're literally crying out these toxic emotions that have been stored in the body. It's called the pain body. It's like we literally store our emotions in our cells, and it's in the water and stuff in our body. So by crying this stuff out, you can heal. Now, it made sense to me, but I went back to Hippocrates in 2013 for myself because the first time I was there for Charles and I was all focused on him, even though I got benefits from it. But I went back and I completely immersed just me. And I met this gal named 𝗁𝗁, and we were talking. We became friends, one of my many friends that I've met there. And she was telling me about her boyfriends and her relationships. And finally she was like, I'm all effed up. And she just starts crying. And I was like holding her. We're by the pool. And all of a sudden I felt this wave of emotion in me. And I started crying. And we held each other for like 45 minutes and we cried uncontrollably. And after it was over, we were just like soaked. And we're like, what was that? And I was like, oh, I remember the story about the cowboy. And I told her that. I said, that's what happened to us. And all I can tell you, Augie, is that after that was over, when I was walking away, I felt like I was floating on a magic carpet. I literally felt like 80 pounds of weight was taken off of my body and my life. And when I got, and this is like the redneck, I don't believe in any of this woo-woo stuff. When I come back home, I'm still a financial advisor. Every Friday, I would get a massage from this gal, and she was also a Reiki master. And she's like Reiki master energy, and I used to like laugh at it, and I like, she's crazy. She's like, this gal's lost it. She's a cuckoo, but she gives damn good massages. So I'm getting, and normally when I walk in, this is how it works. Hi, Tim. How are you today? You can get undressed over here. I've got this. I've got a clove essential oil in the diffuser. I'm very excited to work on you. I'll be right back. I'll knock, and when I'm ready. And she's just really sweet lady. Well, this time I walk in the door, and she goes, what happened to you? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, something massive has shifted in your life. What happened? And I'm like, I'm freaking out now. Okay. Cause I don't know. She's just like completely clear on this. And like, I don't know. And we got talking a little bit, and she's like, she goes, we'll get changed and I'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more. And then she goes, you don't know this, but did you know that I put you as my last patient of the day? My last client? I'm like, no. She goes, do you know why I have you as last? I was like, no. She goes, because when I work on you, I am so exhausted afterwards. It takes me 4 or 5 hours to recover. I have to go home and chill. I was like, what? And it's because I was carrying around so much stuff. See, I was such a competitor, and I'm my ego, and I'm holding on to all this crap. Well, I told her finally, she just got it out of me afterwards because she gave me a massage. Then afterwards, I was like, are you okay? And she's like, oh my God, honey. She's like, I could work on you all day. Now you got to tell me what happened. I'm very curious about this. And then we finally figured it out. And what it was, I was going through a child custody battle with my kid's mom, and it was pretty intense and expensive and all that stuff. And I was able to release all of that, right? It was gone. That's why I felt that backpack off. So this is why for me, first, number one, I want to give a shout out to all the Reiki masters out there, because what you're doing is legit. And, there's always bad apples in any industry, but, find the good ones. And, it's a real thing, man. It's like this emotional stuff. This is why when we work with people, we really focus on their stress. You have got to have tools to mitigate your stress, because stress is killing you. And then we show them how to detox, get the clean up the heavy metals, the radiation, the pollution, all that stuff, the garbage in the body, and get them plugged back into nature, and then let nature do its thing. And that usually does a pretty good job for folks.
That's awesome. Tim, let me ask you, because it's this is very interesting. So let's say someone still listening to this conversation is now very intrigued about what you're saying, and they would like to, take some kind of action, do something as a result of this. What's one actionable item you would give her or him so that they can do right now after having listened to this?
Well, if they're at that point, then they're kind of doing what I would want everybody to do, which is put themselves first. It's so important because so many people put themselves last. Well, I can't do it. I got to take care of the kids, or I got to take care of my wife. I got to take care of my husband. I got to take care of mom and dad. I got PTA. I got all this stuff. Blah, 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 blah. I'm homeschooling. And then, especially women, they put themselves last, and then a wheel falls off with their health, and they go into a broken medical system, and then they can't take care of anybody. And that's not where you want to be. So, if you want to do the best thing you can for your kids, put yourself first and give them the permission slip to do the same, because they're going to watch Mama Bear and Daddy Bear, and they will mimic you. Now, by doing that, that's your best shot, right? Now, they might not do that. Who knows? Maybe they go down the wrong road. They hang out with the wrong people. It's always possible. But the best thing you can do for your kids, if you really love them, is to love yourself and lead by example. Now, as far as that's a tangible action. But beyond that, then we just start going down the line, man. It's like, let's just get your air right, get your water right, and start cleaning up your gut and flooding your body with nutrients, and and those are usually the first steps. And we make it so that it fits into their busy lives. We usually don't have people do things that take more than 5 minutes a day. Once they get that down, then we add something else, and they get that down, we add something else. We just keep building upon it. And before too long, you have a whole new lifestyle, and you're having a whole new body and whole new outlook on life and whole new energy levels, and you're not living in fear anymore, and your aches and pains start, going, you don't notice them anymore, and it's awesome.
That's amazing. And starting with self-love is definitely the best place to start. Tim, where do you want to direct people who want to find out more about you and what you do? And I understand you also have an offer to the listener. So please share that.
Sure.
With us.
Yeah, the best place to find me is just at our website at 𝗁𝗂𝐹reebody.com. And there's actually under the Learn tab is my podcast, or my podcast like yours. I don't know, mine's on all the major platforms. It's called The Health Hero Show. That's a good place to get to know me better and get a lot of free information to help you with your health. Tons of topics. I've got over 100 episodes in there. We bang out one a week. Some great guests. I went deep on a lot of topics, especially in the beginning, one-on-one stuff. There's an episode in there about sprouting that's really cool. Episode 61 is a very powerful episode because that was the biggest health hack I found last year. Was a special... I found an infrared sauna that actually broke a natural law with their technology. I mean, that's kind of a profound thing that I just said. They broke a natural law. And my God, those things are amazing for detoxing. Even better than the big ones that I was selling. I was a distributor for. I don't sell them anymore because I found this one. But anyway, there's actually an episode 38 on colon hydrotherapy. So if people want to get into the truth, because you asked me earlier, like, is it good or is it bad? We dispel all the myths with that. And I had Rebecca Harder on. She's known as Gastro Girl, saving one colon at a time. She's like a little superhero. And she's done over 20,000 colonics, and she's an Act 1 certified instructor level colon hydrotherapist. So we dispelled all those myths. Colon hydrotherapy is awesome. Just got to get over it, guys. Got to get over that ego. But for people that aren't ready to maybe go colon hydrotherapy, I know because I've been doing this work for a long time, and I think I'm pretty convincing, but a lot of people still won't do it. They had the same idea that I had. I'm not doing that thing. So we have products, and we have a gut detox product that can clean that garbage out of your gut, keep it out. We have a toxin detox product that we've used many people have used to get heavy metals, radiation, and pollution out of them, glyphosate and all this kind of stuff. And then other products, people can check them out. But that's under the shop category. And if you guys are interested in trying our 100% naturally occurring herbal and food products, then I would go to the savings bundles tab, and that way you can get a discount, okay? So you can start with like a jumpstart bundle or go to a total energy and detox bundle, which is what I take on a monthly basis. Plus I take our tinctures like the turmeric and the V-Stack. But at checkout, if they put in the code PDM for Personal Development Mastery, PDM, they can get an additional 5% off. So that way you can get a double discount in your first order. And then you just try stuff out. We have a double your money back guarantee on all of our products, and we ship worldwide. So just put in your address, and we'll find out if we ship there.
That's great. Tim, thank you very much. This has been an intriguing conversation. I'm certainly going to check out those episodes you mentioned about in your podcast, and I will put all the relevant links in the show notes for the listener to find out more about all this. So I want to thank you very much, and wish you all the best with carrying on this mission of educating people and changing their lives with this amazing knowledge. Any last parting words?
Well, yeah, I forgot about something because I have this new webmaster. There's actually a free gift on our website too. So when you're farting around on there, the little thing will pop up and say, "You want a free gift?" That's actually our Core 4 Secrets Manual. These are 4 basic things that you could start implementing right now that will transform your health. And 3 of them don't cost anything. They're free. So you can download that manual. That's probably the most important thing to do. And we've had people, because we ship our products to New Zealand and Australia and Europe and all over the place, people that get on that manual and start doing that stuff because of the COVID delays, it could take 2 weeks to a month sometimes for products to show up. I still get I get emails every day like, "I'm feeling better. My gas and bloating's gone. My energy's up." And they don't even have the products yet because they're doing these basic, we call them our Core 4 secrets. These are fundamental things, the basics. And, our products are just part of our toolkit. There's a lot of other stuff that you can do in your home that literally costs nothing. You just have to do it. And that's it. And understand that it's going to work. The manual goes into it. The manual also has recipes in there, some really good recipes. And my favorite gastrointestinal healing recipe on the planet is in there as well.
I hope you enjoyed listening and that you got a huge amount of value from today's episode. If you have, please share this episode with someone who you think will benefit from it. If you want to know more about me and what I do, visit my website 𝗁𝗂𝗄𝗆.com. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in,